Hi, Jimmy.
Karen, how are you?
Thank you for joining us on this crisp winter day in Hasenheide.
It's very nice to see you again. And
Last time it was hot summer when I visited you in the studio.
It's
right?
true, yeah. Was it July?
And it was July, and you showed me the works you had been doing and the works that had been coming back from your museum show in Düren.
Mm-hmm.
How did you start with your practice? Did you start as a performer or a dancer, or did you start more as a photographer when you did your education?
So I studied fine art in London at Goldsmiths University, and there it was a pretty kind of open class, so there was no particular subject. And so I kind of wanted things to be transdisciplinary from the start. I was interested in theater, dance, but also film and photography. And so I was integrating already there performance to film projections, and thinking a lot of about the performativity that happens within images, looking at bodies and how they pose or their gestures, and but really dance proper. I think that happened with the encounter with Yvonne Rainer in 2004, when with my friend Ian White we learned Trio A from her in New York. Trio A is the title of iconic dance piece, which is postmodern dance. It's like the first piece of postmodern dance. Yvonne Rainer compiled a series of movements that are pedestrian and coming from dance, coming from sport, and a very kind of unique piece that kind of really set her in history of dance, in the history of dance. It was, although a democratic piece, it turned out to be a very difficult piece to learn for non-dancers.
Hard work, also physically.
That, we're rolling on the floor, we're doing things we don't normally do. And, you're learning to put your body into space and what this means. And that's what I was trying to say earlier, that this act of learning this piece was a very emancipatory thing, because that's what led me to kind of think of making my own choreographies and thinking that I could do choreographies without being a dancer.
This is what I really like in your work, that you always break these boundaries, between performance, photography, drawing, appropriation art, taking images from other artists, basically.
Yeah, I think it's this happened in a way also of kind of thinking of how to find a position within not the art world, because I was not so ambitious necessarily, but I was like, okay, how do why am I in this? And there was this period of revisiting some works by artists that I liked, like Yoko Ono, the cut piece, for example, that I adapted, let's say, by making a t-shirt out of tape that people would come and tear off rather than cutting during a piece. It's not violent, but it's not pleasant either. It's tape, and then it's taking, hair off, and then I did this piece, and then first a couple of times maybe, and I was like, oh my god, this is too intense, I can't do this again. Why am I doing this? And it took
how did it make you feel? I mean, how did you...
Sometimes you don't know about these things until you do them, and then you realize, oh shit, what did I put myself into? But hey, that's part of the job. And it took... I did it in Japan as well, in front of Yoko Ono performing it in 2011. That was also a very important moment, let's say.
When we met in the studio, you showed me these work from Leopold Fashion Museum. Then we decided that these are the pieces that you would like to give into the show at the Berghain, Studio Berlin.
The show in Berghain for me was an opportunity to not only go back to a place that I was going to a lot, to dance, but also to think, what does it mean to show these images of dances on a dance floor, or
Yes.
you know, and that was actually your idea, like to bring this plinth, which I think was a great idea, to bring this plinth where normally people dance
Yes.
as a plinth for sculptures. And yeah, I just gotta remember, you know, like all these people like dancing on them, and I thought it was totally makes sense to have these movements there, and they're not like club moves.
Yeah.
They're more like very
Introverted in a way, no? They're kind of.
It is, but they're like poses. I feel like they're kind of poses, and photography somehow deals a lot for me with the idea of posing, and I don't know, like posing, stopping, also, you know, not just a pose, but like a play pose, and a still image, and maybe also mortality.
Of course, the dance floor being the focal point of the Berghain was, in a way, you know, the most difficult to tackle, and I think it works really well with your, you know, kind of performance piece as sculpture.
Yeah, and also this like front left side where we show this sculpture, which is also this very emblematic corner where people meet and dance, and this whole idea also of a community that, you know, is. So that was really like, to me, very, very dear. It's not that I would dance there, but I knew of it, and I knew of its importance. So yeah, I hope it's also a kind of an homage to kind of the dances that didn't occur in a way.
I wanted to ask you about one aspect of your work is to show also the vulnerability of the body.
It's funny because I think as soon as you deal with performance, this idea of vulnerability is very present. Of fragility, and therefore I don't know if it's something I set myself up for, or I've always been interested in masculinity, and I think I was very influenced by works that were feminist works, and somehow showing vulnerability was not, let's say, a failure, but more kind of accepting that maybe masculinity is not what we kind of expect it to be. It's also maybe including fragility.
I often think how this time now, at the moment where, you know, we don't have, you know, we call it social distance, but it's, in a way it's more physical distance, and how this will, you know, affect us long term.
Now people are more like, walking around you, and the first lockdown I was really like surprised when people were just jumping off like far away, and I was like, oh, so we all, you know, suspects or potential carriers, and like this sense of trust, and you know, it's really, I don't know, it's really difficult. But this notion of of intimacy and touch now is very something that I'm very kind of concerned about, and also mental health is a big issue, and I'm really concerned for all these art students nowadays. So, you know, there's not many much they can do, and to kind of project themselves, and you know, it's really difficult right now. And but I still believe, you know, there was like, we're kind of also looking into the past, you know, there was like, for example, mail art, phone art, you know, people were doing things with distance before, they were creative, so doesn't mean we have to go analog, but we have to, find the energy to be like creative about the situation, and not feel that it's kind of limiting, but more like, like how can we explode this?
Yeah, well, thank you for meeting here at this park and showing me this beautiful Hasenheide.
Really happy to share.
And for this nice talk.